This is Calabash TV, and we're happy to welcome to our studios Irvin Springer. He is here to speak with us in the capacity of a concerned citizen. Irvin, good to see you. Welcome to Calabash TV.
Welcome. Hi, Bernard, and thanks for having me here this morning.
Now, there's so many different areas, so many different designations that you have that we could have touched on, but I suspect we'll have to do a series with Irvin on this, because we know you, most of us know you in the area of events management. We also know you at First National Bank as well. And we also know you in so many different areas, and we came to know you even more recently when you did a posting on crime. We will talk a little bit about that in just a while. We also know you as an entrepreneur. You're involved in business yourself. You're involved in carnival, in this, almost everything you're involved in.
Right? I say everything.
But quite a bit of things, and most of it in the interest of national development and promoting St. Lucia. And so there will be a lot of need for us to have a regular ongoing conversation with you to talk about development, business development, to talk about events management and the creative industries, especially as a young professional yourself, an entrepreneur. I know now we're discussing Article 164 and so on. What does that mean for ordinary entrepreneurs and so on? So there's quite a bit, and of course, with the season coming up, Red Unlimited.
Yes, Red Unlimited all the way.
So you can't leave out Red Unlimited. But Irvin, crime. There's been an ongoing national discussion on crime. And most people seem to be preoccupied with the numbers every year. We compare numbers. Last year was higher than this year, or what, that kind of thing. What inspired you? What motivated you, first of all, to pen the article that you did on crime?
Okay, I have always been interested in the crime situation in St. Lucia because most people do not know it, but I actually came from a police family. My father was a decorated police detective trained at Scotland Yard and in Yorkshire in the UK. And I mean, from a very young boy, my dream was to become a police officer.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, that was my dream.
Okay.
I think I was probably about 6 or 7 years old when I witnessed a murder. And I mean, that really shook me. And I always had the belief that my contribution in life would have been to protect the weaker ones among us. But unfortunately, my father at the time did not believe that he wanted his son to take that career path. And so I kind of went into another profession. That has been very good to me. But my interest in law enforcement, criminal matters, has always been there through the years. But what really got me vocal last year was that situation, I think it was in Bexar, with the young boy who was terrorizing the community. And the police actually gave a full description of him, and I became aware that they had a picture, but they would not allow the press to publish the picture. So there you had this situation of an entire community being terrorized, the police knowing who the individual was, and they're keeping that information to themselves for whatever reasons. And I started probing and asking questions as to, but why couldn't we publish this guy's picture? And even to the fact when I saw some other guy commented on Facebook and said he got a picture of the guy and realized a couple of nights before this guy was at a place where he was having a drink. And no one at the time knew the guy was wanted. So I started probing and inquiring as to why we couldn't. I started getting various reasons and pushed aside there. Nobody's taking on seriously until I found out what was the exact reason, and then consulted a number of attorneys, magistrates, even a few judges on the matter, and they told me there was no basis for the reason that was being put forward by the police. And then from there I continued, probing, and said looking at a holistic look at the justice system in St. Lucia and looking at all the things. I was saying, but why can't we fix? Because I'm saying there's so you call low-hanging fruit, so much low-hanging fruit. Why we always make the one to try to reinvent the whole process when they're in other islands they're having successes, that we cannot import some of what they're doing into St. Lucia and try and control what's happening. I mean, I understand that you can never fully stop crime, but you can control it. And when that statement was made by law enforcement again, that we are at an unprecedented level, and the type of crimes we were seeing committed, I realized that as a citizen of this country, as someone with family around here, I had to do something. I had to be proactive, and not reactive. Do not wait. A lot of us seem to wait until it hits home for us to get involved. But I don't want it to hit home, so I decided, let me get involved now. And whatever I can do to help in assisting in the reduction of crime, then I'll put myself out there.
Mm-hmm. Now, you suggested a 20-point plan. We will get into that. We won't be able to cover all 20. Like I said, we need to do a series with you on that. First of all, before we get to it, what was the reaction to you when you put out that proposal?
Well, when I put out that proposal, it was actually a challenge thrown out to me by my managing director at the bank, Jennifer Johannes. And he told me, Irvin, you're always talking and you're always on social media. If you were in charge, what would you do? Let's put out your plan, let's discuss it, and let's start the discussion going from there. And I rose to the occasion and I put it out there. The reaction, I was overwhelmed. I did not expect the reaction. From probably 2 hours after I put out the posting, I mean, my phone was alive with all police officers, lawyers, businessmen, even from the other islands calling in and asking me, they read through it, I think it makes a lot of sense. I would like to help you and get on board with this thing. I think we could start in something good. And let's start the discussion going. Let's try and get the community involved. Let's get the chamber involved. Let's get everyone involved. Because you see, at the end of the day, crime affects every one of us. Crime does not discriminate, be it political affiliation, religion, gender, whatnot. No criminal goes to commit a crime and say, me, I will not tackle Bernard because Bernard in the SDA church and whatnot. It's an opportunity for them, a chance for them to enrich themselves, so they will jump at it. So it has to become everyone's business, and that's where we have to start the discussion going.
Now you mentioned police and so on. Have you had a communication with Ministry of Home Affairs, for example? Any ministry person?
The chamber had a discussion on crime, a symposium on crime. I think that was probably October last year. We were able to have a discussion there with the Assistant Commissioner of Police and is it Pumandu? Or Pumandu team, I think, which working with them addressing the crime situation. Okay. I have been contacted by the Commissioner of Police. We have had a discussions, and we hopefully there will be a few meetings in the future. A few community groups have also made contact with me. So you see, now everyone was working in isolation is starting to come together. Because I think everyone has come to the realization that if we're going to overcome this scourge, it has to be a teamwork. It cannot be the police working in isolation, the court system working in isolation, the community working in isolation. It has to be every one of us, because at the end of the day, every one of us is going to be impacted by this crime situation.
Now, there are 20 points in there, as we said. We won't be able to talk about all of them, but we'll certainly put them on the screen so persons viewing the program can get a sense of it. And also we'll put a link to online, wherever the article is, so it can be read in detail. Obviously, it's on Facebook and all the social media sites as well. Now, I'll let you choose first in terms of, let's give it a top 4. So in your own assessments of what you've written here, what are the top 4 things that you'd like to see us as a country pay attention to when it comes to dealing with crime?
Okay. First of all, the points I made were mainly aimed at law enforcement and national security, because I believe right now, to address the situation, that's where the focus needs to be. And that's why I support and would encourage the Prime Minister to look at his national security team and put together a formidable team. I would also recommend that they probably, St. Kitts had a major reduction in crime this year, last year for 2019. And much of that has to do with the fact that they appointed a national security advisor. I know there's a Jamaican guy who's been working with them, and I think we should follow suit. At the same time, let's try and form a linkages with those jurisdictions that seem to be having some success and find out, what they're doing. So your National Security Council would sit and put on a national plan as to how we're going to fight crime. As So one of those things I think that has to happen
And
first.
that's the first one you have on your list.
Yes, that's the first one I think, you know, because there must be a plan. Okay.
And some of the people you mentioned, representatives from the police, prisons, Coast Guard, Customs, SLASPA, Bankers Association, Inland Revenue, Chamber of Commerce, and so on. So these are the kind of people that you want to see involved.
Involved, right, in a fight against crime.
Good.
Okay. Two, I think in terms of the police force, outside of law enforcement, they need to have some kind of serious management in place. And I don't recommend bringing in someone from the public sector. I think of an experienced manager who would go inside there and manage the HR, procurement, budgeting, finance aspect, the business side of the police force. Three, the police current IT infrastructure, I think it's lacking, and we need to probably engage the Taiwanese government or another friendly government with the know-how and bring in again an IT person with a background in law enforcement to see what software is out there. I mean, a lot of places now we could use drones. A drone is a low cost. You can get a drone now for what, 300 US. And a guy can sit at the Rodney Bay police station and using one drone patrol the entire area. And that's costing us nothing at the end of the day. All you have to do is charge the drone. And the last one I was thinking, the police. And also with the IT infrastructure, then you can have the intelligence-driven crime fighting, which they are looking for. And last but not least, the PR part of it, the communications part of it. The police need to restore public confidence in what they're doing. I find the police do not celebrate their successes enough. You always say negative, but last year of the 51 murders, I'm not too sure, but I think the police have solved in excess of 50% and that. And then it took the public know that, to know that they are working. So they have to look at the use of social media, how they interact with the community, the activities that they engage in to build confidence in the police force. The police is not the enemy, but there is so much anti-police stuff going out there. It was another point I made separately, but I was saying, look at our radio stations. I mean, before there was standards, people talk about free speech and whatnot. But when you have guys on the radio, the DJs, making statements like, what is it? Ditches for snitches. All informer have to date. Sorry. Hailing up fellas on murder charges at Bordelais. And, you know, playing songs. You can't keep a good man down. I mean, what are we doing? What are we going to have on the radio tomorrow? Are we going to have rapists on the air about the joys of overpowering women and taking advantage of them? Or pedophiles talking about having sex with small children? We have to draw the line somewhere. And I think that's what lacking. So that's why the police has to increase on their public relations, on their communications, and get us to realize that the police is our friend. The police is not the enemy. The police is our last line of defense against the criminal elements out there. Tomorrow, if we lose the police, we're a failed state.
And certainly, I think there's been a few initiatives, I think one in Vieux Fort, one in Babylon, and probably Lucia and so on, where the police are involved in the communities through the community policing. And this has had tremendous results. I know the one in Vieux Fort has been working exceptionally well. And so you're promoting more of that, more of the police engagement in the community, so people can be with the police, understand what policing is involved, and police understands the community as well. So you're certainly pushing community policing as one.
Yes, and service. That's why I was even made a suggestion to that they move it from the police force to the police service. So the officers involved realize that you're providing a service. You're playing a very important role in society. All right, and the way you conduct yourself, the way you interact with the public will determine how the public perceive you. All right? Why you can walk into a police station and I walk in the guy behind and say, "Good morning, sir. How may I be of assistance to you? What is the nature of your complaint?" I mean, I've sat in some police stations and, oh my God, it's the manner in which they address people. Some of the police officers, I'm not saying they are very good officers, I know a lot of good police officers, but some of the persons should not be in a police uniform.
Is it because they're stressed or it's a lack of training?
I think it contributes. But I mean, I work in the banking sector. And trust me, it's a very stressful place. I mean, but I have to understand at the end of the day, I am there to serve the public. So regardless of the internal stresses I'm facing, I cannot pass it on to the person who has come to me for assistance. And I think once I get this fundamental right, it will change the whole image of the police force. Okay, the whole attitude. Not everybody you're dealing with, interacting with, is a criminal or a bad person.
Now, one of the points you mentioned, number 17, which might not seem to be directly connected, but you'll give us the connection. Increase child maintenance from $250 to a minimum of $400 per child. Link first, please.
Let me link it for you. One of the sources of crime is poverty. Okay, and we have a situation with a lot of people, and I have to be very careful about approach this one, because I think the Prime Minister tried to touch on it, and he was alarmist. Okay, and they cannot maintain the children. So the fathers are already absent, and they're not supporting the children. Now people saying about, you're just going to put in a lot of poor people in trouble and whatnot. But I do think this law has to target is those persons who are making children, have the ability to finance those children, but because of the relationship with the mother, are not doing it. So you see them all over the place, they're driving fancy cars. The children are not able to go to school. The children are not able to learn. So immediately the chances for their survival is reduced. And these are the children you normally find ending up involved in that criminal activity, because the mother cannot provide for them. They stay around the house, they're idle, and then they find that family unit and support in the other young men in the area and the gangs. And that's how you get the gang and girl culture evolving. Okay, so if we could mention, I look at it at about $20 a day, 5 days a week. I did not look at it on weekends, but I think $20 a day would be sufficient to ensure that a child is able to attend school, pay transportation, and get a decent meal.
Certainly. All right. Something that, well, I'm in the broadcast business, so when I saw new broadcast guidelines, I put a red flag on it, or probably a yellow or green flag, or some flag on it, and with fines and revocation of licenses for radio stations engaged in broadcasting material promoting violence. And you made a very, very strong argument, a strong case for responsible broadcasting and so on. I understand that perfectly, but revocation of licenses is a bit tough.
No, I mean, revocation would be your last resort.
Or last resort.
All right. Okay. If you have won a radio station, I'm not saying about there's going to be open discussion, but where there's actually the advocation of those kind of messages, anti-police. Yes, I can go on the radio and say the police not doing an effective job on that, but going out there and saying people who speak to the police should die, and making it uncool to interact with the police. We need to put a stop to those things. I am all for free speech and whatnot, but that doesn't give us the right to engage in speech that put other persons at risk.
Number 20, engage the Trinidad, Jamaica, and St. Kitts police. And you made that point very clearly in terms of best practice from the other islands. We know they all have issues as well, but you're right, St. Kitts did have a very dramatic turnaround. And
I also that Antigua had a 75% decrease in 2019. I think there were only 3 homicides in Antigua for 2019. Wow. 75%. I saw the article. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I saw it on my way here.
So, you didn't mention it, but would you think gun amnesty, for example, would probably help? Because I know in St. Kitts it played a tremendous role.
Yes, I think there is room for... We have tried it in the past, and there have been some limited success. But you see, at the end of that gun amnesty, you must have some serious repercussion in place for persons who do not take advantage of the gun amnesty. Right now, we have persons being caught with firearms. Within 24 hours, they're out, and then being charged maybe a few months later for the same offense. So we have to look at the issue of bail. Okay, I know for most bail is not supposed to be punitive, all right? But at the same time, condition for bail should include that you must abide by the law during the period, that if you are involved in any other criminal activity, your bail will be revoked. But we're sending out the wrong message. I know in Trinidad, they're pushing for the same type of legislation. I think it's coming up again at the next sitting of the House. And then you have those same people for the firearms interfering with witnesses while on bail. So I think in terms of the gun violence, we need to take a look at bail on this one and probably see if we can detain those persons and try and get them to a speedier trial than putting them back out to wreak more havoc on the law-abiding citizens of St. Lucia.
We have a few more minutes, so I want to touch on a few things that I'm sure they're related to what you have here, because like everything else, you put on the point and then, you know, you can discuss each point. Each point can certainly develop into an entire book in terms of the solutions. I heard a senior police officer mention very recently something about conflict resolution, because he was saying a lot of the crime being committed is just people who have altercations, who have misunderstandings, who just can't resolve the issue. How critical is conflict resolution, even starting from a very early point, from schools, football teams and so on, to start getting a better handle on how we handle issues?
But then I agree with him partially for the following reason. Because I think the reason why we're seeing a lot of the conflicts, as I indicated in the interview, is that there's a breakdown in the institutions that are supposed to protect us, so people are now taking things into their own hands. Okay? If persons were 100% sure that if a call was made to the police, that the police would respond in a timely fashion, that the person would be arrested, that they would go to court and the matter would be settled within a matter of months, I don't see why anyone would decide to go take a weapon at their home and go and settle a score with someone else, because they know they would find justice. But if they cannot find justice, as the frustration comes in now, and they figure, I will just deal with it myself. And I have more than any people tell that they have a problem with someone, I will deal with it. And I remember a few years ago, a friend of mine got charged with murder. And it was for the same reason. There was a situation, the call was made to the police never responded despite numerous calls. He ended up going to the scene himself, and he ended up getting involved in a homicide.
Yeah, certainly a good point. Because we're moving very quickly because of time constraints. The very worrying trend I've noticed of bystanders in a situation where there's something is happening, unsavory, a crime is being committed, or people are having a fight or something, and there are people cheering on, there are people laughing, and you're not seeing too many people trying to, I know you don't want to get involved to put yourself at risk, but at least trying to mitigate the situation. How concerning is that for you?
It's a big concern because I know there's been a lot of talk lately about vigilante justice, and I know there was a statement, I think, by the mayor asking persons to make citizen arrests. But as I say, you always have to assess the risk involved in getting involved. I mean, if you see two guys fighting with knives, that should tell you you don't push yourself in the middle. And just recently in Trinidad, a guy did the same thing and he got stabbed 6 times and he passed away. So I personally do not recommend person, you see something happening, call the police. Or if you can get a group of you all together, or you have the training, or probably a licensed firearm holder, or you have some means of descaling the situation without putting yourself at risk. That's the only time I would advise you to do it. But to actually get involved, I would advise most people. I know there is a lot of debate about recording of those events. I think the recordings actually help.
Yeah. Spousal abuse, domestic violence, and so on. Every year, unfortunately, we have to, the ceremonies, activities, marking, and drawing attention to the need for more of those kinds of conflicts that sometimes result in death, unfortunately, as well. Counseling, what role do you see counseling playing, and what is it that we need to put in place to try and diffuse that situation as much as possible?
Okay, first of all, I think we need to put in some legislation. Then I think counseling is very vital because it's a very traumatic experience, I can imagine, for someone. And then you find, in most cases, persons who go through those experiences usually later on manifest it somewhere else. But I think that's why I'm going to put pressure on the government, that we have to create a support system for victims of those crimes. Okay, there is a lot of emphasis on the offender's rights and whatnot. About 2 weeks ago, I saw a posting by Jerry George talking about the young photographer who was killed in Sarat and how the family life has been impacted. And no one is discussing that. But I think if we start taking on those issues as a community, openly discussing them and looking at solutions, a way of remedying them, we can do it. I think right now, also, the police have started taking domestic violence a lot more serious than they did in the past. That's a step in the right direction. But again, We should have more education, more awareness, and even in the school system, I mean, teach people about their rights, their basic human rights, and right and wrong. I think there used to be a subject called ethics some time ago. Maybe we need to bring that in and start talking about family life and how we're supposed to treat each other in a relationship. So we need to go back to the drawing board.
All right. Now, a lot of the things you mentioned there, introduction of body cams, dash cams, GPS, night court, more police bike patrols. I'm sure you know where I'm heading in terms of funding for those events, those activities. And now you also mentioned as number 16, a 70-30 split between the state and the police on seizures and confiscation of assets. I'm sure there are a lot of legal implications there as well. But in terms of the resources, I mean, I was trying to go through the budget this morning to see how much we allocate to law enforcement and security and so on. Obviously, it's not what it's supposed to be. How critical is that aspect of it? Because that's the first thing the police will tell you. We are limited.
It's critical. Okay, the police need resources, they need funding. What I was suggesting is that we start using the proceeds of crime to fund our crime fighting. Okay, so that's why I made a suggestion that we increase the fines, we increase the penalties, so that these funds could be allocated towards providing the resources. The same way I'm looking at our tourism budget. Are we supposed to be spending, do we really still need to spend all this money on tourism, marketing? Because right now, our tourism product is renowned around the world. So can we cut back on this budget and put those monies into an agency that's there to safeguard the tourism industry? Because the two biggest threats to the tourism industry down here will be crime and probably natural disasters. But we seem to be just marketing the same thing over and over again. We do not have increased room capacity. We do not have increased airlift. So what we have coming now might be the maximum amount we have coming. So why don't divert those funds and help fund the agency that's going to safeguard that industry?
So you've just linked us to another show there, but that's for another show. And now I wanted to raise a quick point about the same seizures and so on. I'm sure you don't want to incentivize seizures and so on, because if police know where we can raise funds like that, they can start harassing and targeting people to see what resources that we can get from them.
But you put guidelines in place. But I think if there is an incentive program for police officers, then we would see more seizures and more fines, which can help finance the police. What I want us to have the criminals running scared, not the other way around. They have us running scared. Because I am sure the guys involved in illegal activities, if they're aware that the police will be aggressively looking for monies, from them and whatnot, that's when they start making the mistakes, and that's when they are caught.
Training, education, and so on. And one of the points I was looking at recently in terms of a better quality police force is better trained, better educated officers or people who are graduating or gravitating to the police. I'm not sure what the scholarship program is and how much of it is dedicated to police and crime fighting and so on, but is that an area that you think that we need to certainly dedicate a lot more attention, or you get government deliberately providing scholarships for solutions to go study from forensic science, whatever it is, to also auditing and so on, forensic auditing as well, to ensure that we have a better quality trained, and like you say, so when they're presenting a case, it's pretty airtight, it's pretty solid. And so on. So in terms of the role of education and training for police officers.
And I agree with you on that point, because what you found in the past, persons joining the police force were usually persons that couldn't get a job anywhere. Either you go and drive transport or you join the police force. And I think what the police has the opportunity to do right now is to try and make law enforcement a desirable career. All right, I have heard the president of the Police Welfare Association listing all the issues. So we need to address them. I know right now there is a program through Monroe College where police officers can further their studies, but I'm not too sure if there's a scholarship component, which would be an excellent initiative that could be undertaken to provide them. But as I said, I think the job, we need to give it the importance that it deserves. We need to uplift it to make it attractive, so that persons with the right mindset, persons with the right qualifications, will look to law enforcement as a form of career.
I started the interview saying Irvin by Mr. Springer.
Irvin is good.
Irvin is good. No, we really appreciate the depth and the research that you've done in producing this document, and I urge our viewers to go. We'll post it as well on our Facebook page at Calabash TV, but I'm sure it's on your Facebook page as well?
Yes, on my Facebook
right,
page.
So you can go to Irvin for an IRVIN, without the E.
Without the E.
Springer, and have a look at the document and comment on it positively. You may have ideas and suggestions as well.
But I am saying, these are my ideas. But I hope that other persons will come in and put through their ideas. And then hopefully if we could have a whole list of ideas, and then from this, we take probably the top 25 and that can be implemented. But at least we're making a start. We're doing something. We'll focus on what we're doing. That, okay, we work on the police. As soon as we're done with the police, we go work on the court system. Then we look at the social activities like RISE and open spaces, what they're doing, how we can make them better. And then we look at the education system, how we can. But we have to start somewhere and must stop clouding the issues. We have to stay focused, because that's the only way we're going to win this fight.
Irvin, I still want to wish you all the best with this, and we also want to urge viewers as well. You have ideas like those, feel free to pen them and start a national discussion on how we can improve the quality of life in St. Lucia. I'm very happy that you did this, and I'm happy you give us the time as well to have that discussion. And like I said, there's so many other things we need to have engagements with you. You know,
and I will make myself available.
I appreciate it, and I'm very passionate about small business development, because I think one way of developing our economy is to having a stronger small business sector. And I know that's right up your alley. You work with a fantastic bank, First National Bank, and so do exceptional work. And you mentioned the managing director earlier on, who kind of spurred you on to this, and he's had a tremendous year along with the bank and the board. So
tremendous indeed.
Tremendous indeed. The small bank that's buying big banks. So that's quite an amazing achievement. And I'm happy that a St. Lucian institution is doing that.
Yes.
And I'm happy that
all St. Lucians need to be proud of, because I was just trying to do some research to find out where else a local bank bought over an international bank. So it was a monumental achievement for us. And
certainly that too we need to discuss as well with yourself and Mr. Johannes as well, so when we get a chance to speak with him, and he's extremely busy. But Irvin, really appreciate your time and really appreciate what you're doing as a St. Lucian, and we look forward to certainly engaging you some more, and all the best of Red Unlimited when the time comes.
Thank you for that.
All right, this is Calabash TV, and we're happy that we have Mr. Irvin Springer here with us discussing the critical issue of crime. Stay tuned to Calabash TV. We'll have more discussions on issues of national development. Thanks for viewing.
This is The Reality Show.